Hi, I'm Lippy.
And I'm Grumpy. Together we're Lippy and Grumpy Do Podcasting.
In this episode, Grumpy slips in some car-related topics, our favourite game shows, and lots of listener feedback.
Now, Lippy.
Yes. Hello.
We survived DIY Sunday.
We did, with no injuries and only a couple of minor issues that were resolved.
Yes, something to do with the wrong wood size being delivered. We got round that.
Yes, thankfully it wasn't technically my fault.
No, it wasn't your fault at all.
I probably should have double-checked that they delivered what I ordered, but...
That's not the sort of thing I would do. So, but anyway, we ended up with the hull covered in, no injuries, and just in time to watch the Grand Prix.
Yes, we
did. Which was quite spectacular, I have to say. And anyone who thinks we shouldn't be having halos on cars must be going, no, I'm wrong.
Yeah, he wouldn't have had a head.
Almost certainly not, no. I do remember there was an incident in the 80s, I think it is, with Martin Brundle, and a car went over the top of his car, and there was a tyre mark on his helmet, so he came very close to being squidged.
Scary stuff.
Anyway, we've had quite a lot of feedback over the last week from various people, which is really good to have. Yep. So Mini Matt tagged me on Facebook about the survivorship bias that we talked about and the World War II bomber returning and flipping the what bits do we strengthen. And there's a very, very complicated page it leads to where somebody is saying that the gentleman who is accredited with the survivorship bias, it's not all what it seems, so there's a bit of a myth going on. So that's Abraham Wald. I've read it, and there's an awful lot of equations in there, which I do not understand at all. So I'm going to have another go at reading it and maybe come back next week and try and make some sense of it. But thank you for tagging me, Mini Matt. That was very interesting, even if it didn't make any sense. So Orange Marshall 2, I dropped a comment round. He works for Highways England, so he was particularly interested in the dirty signs. And he said,
we know who to blame for
well, only
signs.
if it's motorways. And thinking about it, I don't recall seeing a dirty motorway sign.
I've never seen a motorway sign that I couldn't read, so
yeah,
I guess
exactly. I noticed on the way to and from yours on Sunday, there was a lot in the forests where obviously the sun doesn't shine very often and they get quite grubby. So I don't think I've seen any on the motorway. But if you do see one, then you can get in contact with them and they'll come and do something about it.
That's good.
Yeah, that's really good. So that's useful to know. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And then I had a lot of contact with Screaming Tomato. I think they're still in lockdown and he's clearly a little bit bored. He talked about measurements and sent this little joke, which I thought was very funny. So, mind you, next door neighbour knocked on my door last week and said, I want to wallpaper my lounge diner. Have you done yours? Why, yes, I said, 3 months back. How many rolls of paper did you buy? He asked. 17, I replied. He thanked me and left. Yesterday morning, he banged on my door and shouted, I papered my walls and I had 6 rolls left over. So did I. So one word in that. So buy instead of use.
Yes.
That's why you have to be precise. And actually, that may have been a joke, but that is the sort of thing the Screaming Tomato would do.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing you would do as well, to be honest.
Yes, it is.
You would send
absolutely.
someone away knowing that they were in for a fail.
Well, not a fail. They've just got wallpaper left over. He then went on to say, some hours later, lol, you crack me up complaining about 28 degrees. We have 28 degrees and we're barely in spring.
Their 28 degrees is very different to our 28 degrees, though, I feel like. Like, when I was in America, we like 40 degrees, but it's like dry heat.
Yeah, it's not humid heat.
Rather than humid heat. So although it's 40 degrees, it doesn't feel like 40 degrees. It feels more like 20.
It could well be humid, though. I don't know. I mean, some areas of Australia are very humid. Couple of points to be made here. Is number one, we are British and we will complain about the weather, whatever.
Yes,
too hot,
whichever
too
way
cold,
it swings,
too wet,
we will
too dry.
complain.
Yep, the whole lot. Also, it was 28 degrees in the office in which I'm working. And I'm sure being a hot country, you have air conditioning. So I think Yes, a little less on there. But he did send you a gift on how to fall asleep. So it's a TED Talk by a gentleman called Jim Donovan, How to Trick Your Brain into Falling Asleep.
Interesting.
So there is a transcript as well, so you can read
But
that.
the TED Talk won't make me fall asleep.
Well, who knows? Maybe that's it. Maybe you watch the TED Talk, you go, oh, and you're gone.
This is so boring.
And the last thing is, I almost used the WD-40 trick for lawnmowers today. Turns out it wasn't required. I think the point is you put the WD-40 on before you start, not when the grass starts sticking to the inside of the grass box. So not sure what you're up to there. But maybe you looked at, and when it's 28 degrees, there's no humidity, the grass is bone dry, I'm just going to cut it and
it won't stick.
So I have to tell you, there are a couple of car-related subjects I want to discuss this week.
Oh, golly. Okay, here we go.
So
this will send me to sleep.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So I saw a video of a review from a farmer on the new Land Rover Defender. Now, I'm a massive fan of the old Defender and sort of balk a little bit at what's clearly not the same thing being sold as a Defender, and not to mention the price, which is quite high. And what he'd done, he tried to not spec this up too much. So he went around the car and he's explaining it. So it's a base model, but this cost a bit more, this cost a bit more. So it's got steel wheels on it, perfect for a farmer. He didn't go for the black roof, which was an astronomical amount more money. But he did have a tow bar. And he said a tow bar came in, I think it was either £1,100 or £1,300, which to me seems like an awful lot of money.
For just a tow bar?
Yeah, it's not just a tow bar. So you open the door at the back, and very cleverly, I mean, one of the things that I do occasionally and will always produce bad language is walking into the tow bar on the back of my Volvo because they are unmovable. The only thing that deflects is your shin, and it really does hurt. So some of the manufacturers have been quite clever in that the tow bar either removes. On this one, it goes away electronically. So you press a button and the thing pops out and locks up, and then you press another button, and assuming you haven't got a trailer connected to it, it will then fold underneath the back bumper, which I think is a brilliant idea. But how much is that going to cost when that goes wrong? Because it's bound to get wrong. Yes, it was a bit, I thought it was a bit over the top. Nice idea, but actually I would just prefer one you could bolt in and out.
Yeah, and put a big sock over it so it doesn't hurt when you walk into it.
Well, it'd have to be a pretty big sock. But no, if you unbolt it and you take it off, I suppose if you're using it a lot, fold-away one is better. So it'll be interesting to see how that review goes on that. So that's Harry's Farm, if anyone's interested, which is a YouTube channel, which is the sister channel of Harry's Garage. And Harry was the founding member of Evo magazine. So he was a farmer beforehand, suddenly decided to set up this magazine and has managed to acquire quite a lot of cars after selling it. But it's a very nice chap and really interesting. Well worth a look if you're into your cars. Which obviously you're not. But you might be into farming. So as everybody seems to be with
Clarkson's Farm.
Yeah, exactly. So I also rummaged around and found what can only be described as peak car button. So if you look at electric cars now, a lot of modern cars, they see, well, certainly the cheaper ones, everything operates through a touchscreen. There's very few buttons on the car. Some of the more expensive cars, bizarrely, do have dedicated buttons. And this is a trend we've seen for some time. So BMW started it in the late 90s, early 2000s. So they would have this sort of eye control that would twist and do all sorts of things and go through menus on the screen. So it's been heading that way for some time. But 1987 clearly was the peak, and there's a picture here of a Nissan Gloria. So this was before Nissan decided to call their car something sensible and not some very bizarre names. And there was a number of female names, actually, a bit odd. And apart from the fact it appears to have a complete hi-fi system from a lounge in it with two separate units and a whole load of buttons. It really does. There's just buttons all over the place. I mean, there are buttons for everything. There's a ton of them on the steering wheel, which actually in 1987 was quite unusual. All sorts of lights and dials and what have you. It's definitely peak car button. The other thing, apart from the name, and again, this is one of my pet peeves, is people referring to mirrors mounted on the car door as wing mirrors, because they're not wing mirrors, they're door mirrors. And if you've ever driven a car with wing mirrors, you'll know how rubbish wing mirrors are. What they've done, what Nissan have done for the Gloria, is mounted door-sized mirrors on the wings.
Oh, God.
And they are enormous. It's like a stately home with the inside and these massive mirrors on it. It's immense. And these mirrors, I mean, it would decapitate a pedestrian if you ran one over.
They stick out pretty far, don't they?
They do. It's the sort of thing you'd see on a car towing a caravan where you have to push the mirrors out.
Yes, the extra mirror.
Yeah, the extra. They really are enormous. I don't quite know why they're on there. Maybe it's a Japanese thing. I'm not sure we saw this car in this country. It's not one I recognise, to be honest.
See, I thought they were called wing mirrors because they look like wings.
No, they were called wing mirrors because they were mounted actually on the wing. So
I didn't know
probably about
there was a wing on the car.
Yeah, well, there is. The front wings. You must have heard them called that.
Possibly.
Yeah, just ignored it. Just utterly ignored it. So typical. Your sister has just got a new job, and part of that was based on the fact that she changed an alternator on her car.
What's
a bit of help. Yes.
They enjoyed that.
Yeah. Do you know what an alternator is?
Can I give it a guess?
No.
What?
Well, okay, go on, give it a guess. Go on.
Is it the thing helps change the gearbox?
No.
Oh.
No, it generates electricity.
No. Nowhere
Charges
near
the
that
battery
then.
no. Charges your phone. Talking about cars, unfortunately, had another breakdown.
Yes. I've heard.
Yes. So we went to the dump on Saturday and got halfway there and the coolant light came on, which is not unusual. It does leak a little bit. But what normally happens is it goes out again. If you're going down a hill, it will come on and then we'll go up. It just needs a bit of a top up. But we got to the recycling centre. Opened the bonnet, had a look, no water in it whatsoever. And there was a trail of water through the road and then we reversed back against the bin. And also there was a funny clattering noise. So the very nice, helpful people at the recycling centre gave us some water in a wine carafe that they found at the back of one of the bins.
Lovely.
Yep, so we filled it up, got home, and used my pump-up thing. It's the third time now. And pouring out of the water pump. So it's gone off, hopefully. That's it. So that's what the noise is as well. But that was a bit annoying.
So, important question here.
Go on.
Is it time to buy a new car?
Wife of Grumpy said the same thing, and I said no.
It's a lovely old car, but it's broken down a lot recently.
It has. In the last 6 weeks, it has been a little temperamental. But the engine's perfect, apart from the water pump. But the emissions,
Apart from the fact it keeps breaking down.
it's only twice, and those have been ancillary parts. So you could go and spend, I don't know, £10,000 on another Volvo and drive it out, and then same thing happens. So these are consumable items that have gone. They're not big items.
Okay.
So
few more
hopefully
years
it's the
in
water
it then.
pump. Yeah, good. Well, I'd like to get to 500,000 miles, which is
Not far off, I can imagine.
225,000 away. So
By the
just
time
over
you've driven to
halfway.
France and back next year.
That's not 200,000 miles.
Oh, no. I know that,
about
but
2,000.
that's a good.
Well, it's a tiny percentage there.
You're getting the long
1%.
journeys in, though, aren't you?
No. Well, actually using it. Anyway, I think we've talked enough about cars. You're looking like you're
Yes,
about to
I
nod
agree.
off. So I wanted to talk about game shows because we both love a game and we both love a game show. I have some favourites and I have some ones I don't quite understand. And I have a very simple rule. If I can't understand it in the first couple of minutes, then I'm not interested.
Yeah, 100%.
Because what seems to happen, they'll take a fairly simple quiz and then make it unbelievably difficult by adding some sort of physical thing in there that you have to do jumping from. Just all these bizarre rules that you just go, my head hurts now. Just ask some questions and get people to answer.
Yeah, it's like the bamboozled game in Friends, isn't it?
I don't remember that.
Oh, do you know? Oh, it's all the rules and no sense to it at all.
Is this the one with the cups? Not
No,
the one where
that's a different
Chandler's
one.
trying to give Joey. Oh, it's a different one. Okay.
No, but that one was also.
Yeah, it was quite
Confusing
good. It was
game
not
show.
a general knowledge quiz. So if you had to pick a favourite,
Yeah,
what would you go for?
catchphrase.
Yes, I quite like catchphrase,
I
actually.
love catchphrase.
Yeah.
It's not really questions though, but I do love catchphrase.
Does make you think.
It does make you think. And also, we are quite a competitive family, would you agree?
Possibly.
Possibly. So when we used to watch Catchphrase together, Charlotte, oh my God, a whole other level. She's good at that one.
She is very good at that, actually. She's very good at that one.
But I'd always try and beat her, and it's the one thing I could never beat her at.
Well, that's a Mario Kart.
That and Mario Kart, yeah. Fair point.
See, my favourite at the moment is Richard Osman's House of Games.
Oh, I don't know if I've seen that.
Oh, it's a very good one. It's on at 6 o'clock in the evening, and they have 5 programmes during the week, and it's the same contestants for each 5.
Oh, no, I have seen that, and I do like that one.
So some really interesting games on there. There's one we were watching last night where it was introduction to a piece of music. So you'd hear the first couple of seconds, and then you had to press the buzzer when the singing started.
Oh, that's interesting.
Really interesting.
That'd be
because in that first couple of seconds, you've just sort of got enough time to work out what song it is, and then trying to remember how much of an introduction there was. Yeah, that's a really good one. And the answer smash, which they always have at the end, which is a picture and a phrase, and somehow the two join, I think is very clever.
Yes.
Generally, people are quicker than I can operate my mouth.
Is that the one where they also have the game where you have to incorporate something into the answer? So the answer is like a name, but you have to like put Canada, or there's like a picture.
Yeah, there is some of those. You
have to merge
yes,
the actual answer with the picture answer.
Yes,
to make it doesn't. The answer isn't a real word necessarily.
No, it's two words smashed together. Hence word smash. That's quite cleverly named. And we've talked about is it Just Connect before on here, which is one of Davros's favourite programmes.
Yes, we have.
And he always says you've got to start watching it from the beginning of the series, not come in halfway through.
Halfway.
But that makes my head hurt. That one.
Yeah.
That's not for the faint-hearted.
Another one I like is The Chase, but not because of the game. Purely because of the host.
He is one of the funniest people on television, Bradley Walsh. He is so funny. And he just loses it as well. I'm sure they come up with questions.
Specifically to make him laugh.
And we've had some absolute corkers on there, which I'm sure are on YouTube if you search for them.
Yes. Yeah, Bradley Walsh, The Chase, and the best one will come up, 100%. Fun fact, I saw him on holiday in his swimming trunks.
Oh, you did, didn't you? Yes, well, thank goodness he was wearing swimming trunks.
I know, he was with his son, so I'd hope he was wearing swimming trunks.
I quite like Mastermind and University Challenge, and I feel if I manage to answer one question, then I'm done. I'm happy.
I don't enjoy watching things where people are more intelligent than myself.
Is that why you watch Love Island?
That is why I watch Love Island. Although some of them are more intelligent than me. They had a doctor training to be a surgeon on there. And she obviously got paid for being on there, donated it all to the NHS.
Oh, how kind.
Yeah, the whole paycheck that she got from them, because she didn't realise she was getting paid. She thought you only got paid if you won or went into the final.
Well, that's very generous. Talking of game shows, I've not seen anything about The Apprentice this year, and that is one of the car crash reality TV shows I like.
That is the best one.
I wonder why.
Wow.
I thought I saw something about it coming.
Hope maybe they'll just push it back a bit. But that is one of the best.
Oh, no, it's early next year.
That'll be good. That'll be good to have that back.
Yes, that's a good one. I quite like it in the autumn, though, because there's a nice drawing. You don't feel like you're wasting too much time watching something that's really quite atrocious. The one I struggled with in terms of game shows was Pointless to begin with.
Oh, I like Pointless.
I really enjoy it now, but it took me a while to get it. So that breaks my rule of understanding what's going on. Yes, that always sparks quite a lively debate, to be honest, about that.
I like watching that one, but I don't tend to know many answers because I get once I've thought of an answer, I struggle to think of any other answer other than that answer. Yeah. So thinking of the first answer that comes to my head is obviously going to be super popular and not give you 0 points.
Yes, that's why you have to go into deep thought.
Yes, but I don't really tend to have that deep thought.
No, we have seen that.
Yeah, I tend to just go with the first thing that comes into my head.
And some of it must depend on the people they've asked. Some of the questions, obviously to somebody who's a bit older, they would know the answer, but a youngster maybe not. And vice versa if it's to do with popular music, as they call it, then it'd be very difficult to ask me a question on that and stand any chance of getting anything right.
Yeah.
Overall, I quite like a game show, particularly like a quiz show.
Quiz show.
One or two.
Picture show.
Picture show. I quite like quiz nights at the pub as well.
Yes.
Those ones are quite good, but they can be taken a bit too seriously.
Oh, yeah, it has to be a fun quiz night.
Yeah, absolutely. Not
I'll tell you another show that is absolutely cracking is Taskmaster.
Oh, that is...
With Greg
yes,
Davis.
I've forgotten about that one. Yes, and Alex Horn.
Yes.
Yes.
That's not so much of a game show because obviously it's not like answering questions, but it is absolutely hysterical.
It is a little bit like It's a Knockout was in the 70s. Just very slightly along the same lines where you're doing something that's really ridiculous. But you do have to think about it. And it's really interesting seeing different people's approach.
Yes. My favourite one is where they make them put the 3 inflatable like yoga balls on the top of a hill. And they have to put 3 of them. They all have to be on the mat on the top of the hill. Absolutely hysterical, that one.
And do they have to be inflated?
Yes. I don't think they say, but they don't give you anything to de-inflate them.
Deflate.
Deflate them.
Deflate.
De-inflate. That's like on the line.
It is very much on the line.
Yes. One person asked 2 ladies who would happen to be walking up the hill to sit on the balls until she got back up there with the 3rd one.
Oh, that's quite a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody else, because I think the wording is you have to get all 3 balls on the mat on the top of the hill.
Yeah.
So someone went up, got the mat, brought it back down and put the 3 balls on it. But because it was on the mat that's on the top of the hill,
yeah,
it worked. It counted because it was putting the balls on the mat, not on the top of the hill.
Yes, the mat just happened to be up there.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, it comes back to how many rolls of paper did you buy. It's understanding what's being asked of you.
Yes, that's why I always was really rubbish at English questions in like my GCSEs because I never really understood what was being asked.
Okay.
I didn't know what they wanted to know specifically.
No, that's often a mystery in exams, to be honest, I found, which is why I try avoiding them. So something else I've noticed with game shows is there seems to be some sort of inverse law between how difficult it is to win and the prize that you win.
Yes.
So take Mastermind, for example, and it is a very coveted award to win that. I mean, to win that is pretty cool. But it's not like you win a holiday to the Caribbean and a couple of £100,000. You win a trophy or a plate or something, which you'd be very proud of. But then you get the other end of the spectrum where you've answered some questions, sat in a box somehow with lots of lights and things and flashing bits, and you've won
like the chase.
Either a massive, like
not the chase. Like the cube.
The cube I don't really understand, to be honest. I find that a bit annoying.
Complete the
it's just a bit
task.
Too slow.
It is quite slow. It is very slow.
And actually, talking about slow, Tenable, which is actually quite a clever program, I think. They spend far too much time building up a bit of atmosphere by waiting from when the answer's said to when they start putting the lights up and it goes donk, donk, donk. Come on, get on with it. You know, life is too short to wait for this.
They have to fill the slot time though, don't they?
Well, they do, but they could do that with another question.
I guess.
Must be other ways of doing that. It just drags it out a bit. And then I never understand the order the questions or the answers are in. That's always a bit bizarre. And how do they get to the top 10? Top 10 of what? Yeah, anyway, moving on. My perfect game show.
Yes.
I think you'll agree with me here. It's hosted by Greg Davis.
100%.
Or maybe Jimmy Carr.
Yeah, I do like Jimmy. I feel like if it was hosted by Jimmy Carr, though, well, no, Greg Davis would rip the out of you either way, actually.
Well, it depends what time it's on. But
yes.
I think either, as somebody said about going to see Al Murray, don't sit in the front row. Because he will go along and, yes, hit the mic. Anyway, so Greg Davis hosting. There has to be cheese in it somewhere. I don't know how. Maybe a cheese award or some sort of...
mousetrap type of game.
Yeah, actually, maybe, the old mousetrap game, that sort of thing. So maybe you answer questions and you get a bit of the mousetrap. There's only going to be one bit of cheese on that, and I'd like to see more cheese.
Yeah, all the cheese.
So maybe you win bits of cheese as you go along. And nice, easy general knowledge questions.
Yes.
So none of this complicated stuff.
No.
Really
Multiple choice question.
Multiple choice is always good.
I like a multiple choice question.
And if it's multiple choice, it means there's going to be a big prize at the end as well. So a big piece of cheese or lots of little pieces of cheese.
And I would also like some help lines. Lifelines.
Yes.
Like in I'm a Millionaire. That's not what it's called.
Would you like to be a millionaire?
Would you like?
Or who wants to be a millionaire?
Yes, that would be quite
good. Yes, that would be quite useful. Although generally the people they phone are useless.
Yeah.
No idea.
Very useless.
Yeah. Well, it'd be like phoning me for a question about popular fashion. Not gonna happen, is it?
No.
Whilst we're talking about television, I'm just going to throw a bit of a curveball in. Mattress adverts. Why are there so many on the television? And I don't know whether it's because time of day. So I haven't done it much lately, but sometimes when I have lunch, I'll just sit down and watch something on the telly. And normally it's a rerun of Top Gear or something like that. But there does seem to be a disproportionate number of mattress adverts. And they're very long adverts as well. So either that slot is really cheap to have an advert in, or they're making so much money from selling mattresses that they can afford big slots.
I think it also has something to do with the fact that there's a lot of mattresses now that you buy online and they get delivered in a box. Those like foam ones you wouldn't get if you went to a mattress store. Weirdly, I went to a bed shop to get our new bed and mattress and actually lay on it and tried it out. Whereas you can't do that with these ones because they just come and then you can send them back if they aren't working for you. So they need to be more advertised on TV and things for people to actually see them. Yeah,
I guess so. But there just seems to be so many different manufacturers of these mattresses.
Yeah,
and all
there is
working the same way, where you buy it online or over the phone and they send it to you. The question I have, though, is if you send it back, do you have to put it back in the box? Because I reckon that's quite hard.
I reckon that's really... I think that would actually be impossible because they vacuum pack it into the box.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, maybe the terms and conditions must be returned in the original packaging. Yeah.
Yeah. There is a sneaky way, actually, that you can vacuum pack things without a vacuum packer.
Vacuum cleaner?
Yes, or a hairdryer.
That blows.
No, if you put the end that sucks in to the bag, and it sucks it through.
Yes, that could work. Does sound like a recipe for burning out your hairdryer.
Well, if you have it on cool, just don't have it on hot.
Even so, I think I'd be a little bit worried about it. When you have a vacuum cleaner that is designed to suck rather than blow.
Oh, yeah, I didn't really think about that. In my head, I was like, is there a reversible button on a vacuum cleaner?
Some of them do.
I forgot that they suck. I forgot they suck rather than blow, though.
Some of them do. We've had, a friend of ours had one for blowing up an inflatable boat, and it was a sort of builder's type cheapy vacuum cleaner that blew as well as such, which is quite useful if you're blowing out dust.
Yes, out the little cracks.
Yes, so mattress adverts do sit a mystery to me. I don't know why there are so many. So if you know the reason, then please let us know. Put me out of my misery. Yeah. Now, have you got a top tip for this week?
I do have a top tip for this week. We have briefly touched on the subject.
Again?
Yes.
The last two haven't been brilliant.
It's a better one.
I'll be honest.
It is a better one.
It couldn't be much worse. And I have to confess, I did have to edit quite a lot out of last week's one.
Out my waffling. I waffled a lot.
We strayed into a territory that I thought was a bit risque. So I cut that bit out.
Oh, okay. So anyway, it's a lot simpler, my top tip this week. My top tip is, if you get a delivery, check it is actually what you ordered before you then need to screw it into the ground.
Yes, correct.
Or you might run the risk of being called a man when you're a woman, like I did.
Well, that was all a bit confusing, but I suspect the majority of people that go to that DIY shop are male.
But you still shouldn't assume.
Absolutely.
I was very annoyed about the whole situation, to be honest, and I made him apologise.
Very good. Sure it was a him?
It was a him because I knew his name, but he didn't know my name, which is why he assumed I was a man.
Yes. I think with those things, that was on chat, wasn't it?
It was on chat, yes.
Yeah, I tend to find that actually talking to somebody is a lot better.
The whole thing was resolved in seconds in the store.
Yeah. I've had a number of things I've had to take back to DIY stores, and sometimes it's not easy, particularly if you haven't got the receipt. They get a bit get a bit of a frosty.
Yeah.
response.
Well, yeah, and all I was asking for was a gift or voucher to then spend more money, spend it back in the store.
Good,
Easy,
but that is a top
to a
tip.
human. That
Check
is
the
a good
contents
top
of the
tip.
delivery before you need to use them.
I've got another top tip.
Oh,
no,
gosh,
we'll
a double.
do.
No,
Well,
let's
I was
do a
just
double
thinking,
one.
another mistake that I made this week, which
Oh,
caused
dear.
me a couple of hours of stress yesterday. When you're booking a plane ticket, don't use your shortened name, use your real name. I booked a plane ticket for Chris under Chris and not Christopher. Which then I realised is that they don't let you on the plane if your plane ticket doesn't match your passport.
Oh, no. Oh, that is a truly good top tip.
Yes, which I just didn't even, because Edinburgh as well, so I wasn't even thinking about being abroad. I wasn't really thinking about the use of a passport.
Do you need a passport to get to Scotland?
You need the passport because you're in the airport, not because
Okay. Some sort of ID.
you're flying to Edinburgh. You just, actually, I think you can do it on a driving licence, but the same counts.
I would think so, because if you've not got a
The
passport,
name has to match. But I think it's just photographic ID in the airport.
Yeah. Ooh,
But anyway.
a double top tip. That's
double top
actually
tip.
both top tips. Well done.
Yes, yeah.
Onwards and upwards, as they say.
Yeah, and also for that, you need to ring the airline up because they will change it for free because it is still the person. But online, it tried to charge me £100, which was the cost of the tickets in the first place, to change Chris to Christopher because it was over 3 letters.
That's lengthist, surely.
Well, it has a 3-letter spelling mistake allowance,
Okay.
but because it technically wasn't a spelling mistake either, they were fine. They changed it for me.
Was that 3 characters each time? So could you have just gone back and changed it until you got the right name?
Oh, I don't know. After I stressed out about being charged £100, I rang them and spoke to them. And they were like, oh, yeah, no, that's fine. We'll just change it. I was like, okay, cool.
I wonder if they did it 3 letters at a time.
They just override, don't they?
I have a very long fact of the week,
Do you?
but it is
Oh, my
worth
God.
hanging
I've
on
just
to.
scrolled on our
Yeah.
notes. It's an extremely long one.
It is, isn't it? And this came from the Screaming Tomato as well. So I think we should dedicate this episode to the Screaming Tomato.
We'll send you a mug.
And this is what, well, yes, we will actually. Oh, yes, on merch news. Yes, we have, the mugs have arrived and they need a bit of fettling. But once we've got a bit of time, we'll set up the shop.
Yes.
And then get some stuff rolling. But I was very pleased with the T-shirts. I thought they were good.
Very pleased with the T-shirt.
Hang on with the T-shirts. And I think, as I say, we were talking about Twotter Spotter last week, and I think we ought to have a Twotter Spotter T-shirt and mug set just in time for Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, let's get on with that. Anyway, back to Fact of the Week.
Yes.
And this is worth sticking with because it all ties up at the end. And it reminds me a little bit of the James Burke programmes called Connections or Circles. And how he then always goes back to something original. So this is right up my street. So the United States standard railroad gauge, so that's trains, is 4 foot 8.5 inches, which is a slightly odd measurement. So why did we use that? Or why did they use that? And that's because when we built them in England, that's why we built them. So why did we build them like that? Because the first rail lines were built by people who built wagon tramways, and that's the gauge they used. So why did they build them like that? Because the wagons that were going on the roads were that distance apart to fit in the ruts of the roads. And those roads were built by the Romans, and the Romans' wagons were built so you could get 2 horses between the wheels. So basically, the railways in the UK and in the US are built to fit 2 horses' bottoms in. 2 horses' bottoms. Now, the twist in this story is if you've ever watched the space shuttle launch, then there's 2 booster rockets on the side. I mean, we haven't had one for a very long time, so there's a big one at the back and 2 on the side. And those are transported by rail. And they ideally would have been bigger, but because they can't overhang the railway, because they get stuck in a tunnel, they were made a bit smaller. And again, that was back to the fact that the Romans built their carriages to get 2 horse bottoms in there.
So it's the size of 2 horse bottoms.
Basically, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Plus a little bit to get whatever bits they need to attach to the horses. So it goes back to Roman times. So the Romans really did rock We still see it so much today with Roman roads in this country and obviously in Italy as well. And there's the very famous ones. But the A5, for example, some of that is just so straight. It's incredible. Bits of the A2 in Kent as well. And it makes you wonder why we ever build roads with bends in.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you need one every now and then, but some of them are just so twisted, presumably go around people's land. Be more Roman.
Yeah, I saw an interesting picture on Facebook that was a cobbled road built by Romans that was fully intact, still quite flat looking, compared to a countryside road built by us in 2021 with so many potholes, there was barely any road left.
Yeah, that's an unfair comparison. Have you ever driven over a cobbled road?
Yeah, it's not the comfiest. But they weren't built to be driven over, I guess.
Well, then the pothole thing's immaterial, isn't it? Because if you're not going to get a pothole in a road you don't drive over. I mean, but
it still lasted longer.
It has lasted longer. There's no two ways about it. And I'm not defending our roads at all. Not happening. That's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
You can help spread Lippy and Grumpy's view on life by leaving a review on your favourite podcast platform.
If you're not sure how to leave a review, or if you download from Spotify, there's some help at lippyandgrumpy.uk/review.
And if you would like to get in touch, email podcast@lippyandgrumpy.uk.
So it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from him.
Goodbye.
Bye.